Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 7.
Hello, fun runners. This is Jenna. How may I help you?
Yes, I'm looking to speak to someone about booking my son's birthday party.
But let's check availability first. What's the date and time of the party, please?
June the 15th at 1 p.m.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir, but we're booked up solid for June the 15th. The next available Saturday that I have for a 1 p.m. party would be June 22nd. Would you like me to book you in then?
Well, that's no good. My son's birthday is the 17th of June. My wife has already told the other parents to save the date. Maybe we could ask the parents about Sunday the 16th. Do you have anything available then?
We don't run all activities on Sundays as we close at 4 p.m. But I can book your group in for noon, if that works for you. Do you want me to list what comes with the package?
Sure.
OK, we have a variety of activities open on Sunday for kids aged 6 through to 16. If you want a basic level package, it'll give the kids each 2 hours of unlimited activities, including laser tag, games, bumper cars, mini putt and a pizza lunch. The only activity we do not offer on Sundays is the rock climbing wall. We just hired a clown to be on site for the smaller children, and that's gone over really well. You'll also be provided with an activity host, and this person will keep the kids organised and ensure everyone's having a good time.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 8 to 10.
OK then, Fun Runners needs to get a down payment via credit card prior to booking. We also need you to complete our questionnaire outlining what meal you'd like to serve the children. You can do this online once I finish punching it into our system.
Good. I will fill out the food choices when I get a moment. Do you have gluten-free options?
We do. We have gluten-free cheese or pepperoni pizza slices. We have hot dogs and chips or chicken fingers.
Sounds just like a bunch of junk food. Do you have salad or vegetarian options?
We don't. We have a limited kitchen on site, but would be happy to cater in speciality options for you from our sister site, if you don't mind an extra fee. We've got salads and sugarless options.
Yes, I would like those options. Please send them to me by email. I will select the ones I need.
OK then. Is there anything else I can help you with today, sir?
No, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for calling Fun Runners, sir. We look forward to having your son's party next weekend.
That is the end of Section 1. Section 2. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15.
Right, everyone gather around please. Let's get this week's nature group discussion started. Picture a dense forest in Mexico in the dead of night. A thick warm air hangs as a predator calculates its attack from the bough of a tree. As you may have guessed, I'm going to talk this week about a creature that is little known, the spectral bat, or Vampirum spectrum as it's biologically classified. The spectral bat is the largest species of bat in North and South America, generally localized in southern Mexico, Ecuador, Peru, northern Brazil, and the island of Trinidad, but not Tobago, strangely enough. The spectral bat tends to inhabit hollow trees, caves, or rock crevices, and is even known to nest in man-made structures. As foragers, this species of bat has acclimatized itself to several different habitats, such as dense flora environments like forests, swamps, and marshy areas. Its diet, which we'll discuss in a second, is equally varied. The spectral bat is commonly confused with a vampire bat, Although the two species resemble each other physically, they have several other differences, the most prominent being that the spectral bat does not drink the blood of its prey. Spectral bats are patient hunters and use their highly developed olfactoral system, otherwise known as a sense of smell, to pinpoint precisely where their prey are located on the forest floor in the dead of night. In fact, spectral bats are such skilled hunters that their attack success rate is among the highest of all mammals in South America. Feeding on animals its size or smaller, the spectral bat typically uses its claws and jaws to crush the bodies of its prey prior to consuming. Its diet is made up predominantly of other bats, birds, small rodents, amphibians and lizards.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20.
As I alluded to in my intro, the vampirum spectrum has a wingspan that can extend up to 3 feet and a body length of 6 to 8 inches. The very short stubby fur on the upper parts of its body is generally dark or chestnut brown or rust orange in colour. It has rounded, large ears and a long narrow muzzle, but is most distinguishable by its lance-shaped nose leaf. Unlike many other species of bat, the spectral bat has a flap of membrane between its legs instead of a tail. Spectral bats mate once per year and typically only produce a single pup. Both adults are attentive to their offspring and will habitually sleep together with the wings of the male enveloping the mother and her young. Similarly, both parents will assist in the feeding routine while roosting and will continue to do so until the young reaches full independence. Most births have been recorded to occur between May and July, which correlates with the transition from dry to rainy seasons. The vampirum spectrum is rarely preyed upon by other animals. Although certain snake species have been known to hunt baby spectral bats from the nest, by far the most major cause of the decline in spectral bat numbers is climate change and ecosystem destruction due to human activity. Despite this, spectral bats are not yet on the endangered species list and enjoy population numbers much greater than many other bat species. Okay, right, you should now be able to distinguish the vampirum spectral species from other bats. Does anyone have any questions?
That is the end of Section 2. Section 3. First, you will have some time to look at questions 21 to 24.
Welcome back to CKOV 93.4 FM, live with Richard and Ellen.
On this week's Cultural Roundup, we'll be discussing the ancient Hindu festival of Diwali, or Deepavali, also better known as the Festival of Lights. With almost 1 million Indo-Canadians, some of the biggest celebrations occur right here in Canada.
That's especially true in cities with large Indo-Canadian communities, such as Toronto and Vancouver, and the surrounding cities of Brampton and Surrey.
Diwali celebrations date back thousands of years. For many Hindus, Diwali represents the perseverance of good over evil in the struggle of light versus darkness. It celebrates the victory of the god Rama over Ravana and Rama's return after 14 years of exile.
To mark the original event, it is said that 20 candles were lit in a row to celebrate Deepavali, which is the ancient Sanskrit for a row of lamps. Over time, Deepavali was shortened to Diwali, which is the modern name we know the festival by today. To mark the modern version of the festival, candles are lit, homes are decorated with bright lights, and sweets and gifts are handed out.
You know, Ellen, doesn't that remind you a lot of Christmas? The lights, candles, and the exchanging of gifts?
It does, Richard. It's got all the hallmarks of Christmas, save for the tree and reindeer. But, all jokes aside, Diwali is just as important to Hindus as Christmas is to Christians.
The really striking thing about Diwali is just how important it is in South Asia, not just for Hindus, but almost everyone. It's unique because it extends beyond religious barriers. Hindus, Sikhs, and Jains all celebrate one form of Diwali or another across South Asia.
It extends even past South Asia, Richard. It's not only a national holiday in India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia and other South Asian countries, but it's also a holiday in Fiji and has even spread to the Western Hemisphere in places like Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana. Movements of a sizable East Indian community within the British Empire brought Diwali to the New World several centuries ago.
Really fascinating how that happened. I think even more amazing is that these groups haven't always gotten along, but they still share a common holiday. 3 religions on 3 continents and just one really big holiday.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 28.
Ironically, Hindus, Sikhs and Jains all celebrate Diwali for different reasons and use the festival to commemorate different things. There's even variation among the Hindu communities themselves. For example, the killing of Narakasura by Lord Krishna is an especially important religious event in Nepal. Sikhs, on the other hand, celebrate the release of the 6th Guru from the prison of Emperor Jahangir in 1619. For Jains, it dates back 2.5 millennia to 527 BC, where according to ancient tradition, Mahavira, a very important spiritual leader, attained nirvana, the complete liberation of the soul.
Such a rich history. But you know, Diwali celebrations also create breathtaking and extremely elaborate artwork. I get to see it firsthand.
Oh really? How's that?
Well, every year my neighbors create the most stunning floor decorations as part of Diwali celebrations. My kids can't get enough of them. They always impress us. Our neighbors make them by spreading rice, flour, and sand in intricate and beautiful patterns using traditional motifs called rangoli. They'll even put flower petals on them. It's meant as an elaborate sign of welcome to important deities.
I bet it's a job trying to stop the kids from touching them.
It is, but I wind up handing that task over to my wife.
Poor Susan.
I'm just kidding. But you're right. Getting children not to touch the intricate patterns is a real test.
I traveled to India after college and saw many of those patterns in public places. It's almost the equivalent of the street art in Canada since it's so ubiquitous.
Just a little less permanent, right?
Yes.
And I guess a little more tasteful. Graffiti's often an unwelcomed addition to a city.
I think we can conclude that what Canada needs is more Diwali.
Yes.
All right. On that note, listeners, we're signing off on this week's Cultural Roundup. We hope you've learned more about Canada's cultural mosaic and the significance of Diwali celebrations. Next week, join us as we talk about one of Mexico's most infamous holidays, Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead. Stay tuned for more of CKOV 94.3 FM.
That is the end of Section 3. Section 4. First, you have some time to look at questions 29 to 40.
The ongoing evolution of gesture. Providing a congratulatory high five in celebration, avoiding the use of the left hand while eating, demonstrating respect through bowing the head, these are all examples of widely used and misused gestures. But where do the cultural variations among gestures stem from, and why do human beings gesture at all when we have perfectly good spoken language? In the following lecture, I am going to examine the science behind gesturing, its sensitivity to context, and the relationship between gestures and the spoken word. At the heart of gesturing is the desire to communicate. We humans are not alone in this desire. As I'm sure you've seen on any nature TV show, animals use all sorts of gestures to communicate a message like, for example, that they are fertile and in need of a mate. In the human brain, gesturing is controlled by the same area that produces speech, and this has led to all sorts of interesting discoveries regarding how we communicate. Let's use the renowned thumbs up as a case study. The thumbs up gesture is performed by extending your thumb upwards while closing your other fingers into a fist. While the exact origin of the sign is unclear, it is a gesture that has been adopted by most societies throughout history, and not all of them associated the gesture with affirmation. Thus, the context within which a gesture is exercised is key. What would the thumbs up represent when one is standing in front of a taxi stand? What does it mean when accompanied by a sarcastic expression? What would you be communicating as a spectator in a Roman gladiator ring? As these rhetorical questions demonstrate, our thumbs possess no intrinsic message by themselves. The message is only delivered after it has been filtered through a society's predetermined meaning for the gesture. The same is of course true for spoken language, which is really nothing more than sounds being projected and interpreted by a predefined code of understanding. It is for this reason that we must broaden how we have traditionally defined language. In fact, the thumbs up gesture has now become a metaphorical part of spoken English. Commonly you hear people describe restaurants, movies and music with language like, "I give that album a thumbs up," or "My friends and I feel that movie deserves a thumbs down." This use of the spoken word to describe a physical cue indicates our confidence in a gesture's ability to communicate a message. Perhaps we feel the gesture communicates our message better than our words do. Now, it's important to remember that culture, and with it language, are in a constant state of evolution. Thus, with the world's cultures becoming more and more alike through globalization, it is no surprise that gestures too are becoming universal. In some Asian countries, for example, giving someone a thumbs up was at a time seen as offensive or even aggressive, akin to raising a middle finger in the Western world today. But now there are very few places anywhere that view a thumbs up as anything but affirmative. Take this a step further and you'll notice how gesturing is evolving all around you at this very moment. For example, it is not uncommon today for people in public situations to poke at their iPhones in an effort to communicate to those around them that they do not want to be bothered. Emoticons on a computer are usually cartoonish representations of physical gestures. Flicking your high beams in your car, all of these are examples of the dynamic and evolving power of gesture. So when you leave this room today, try to notice your gesturing and the gesturing around you. Being conscious of how we gesture can make us better communicators.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.